Nikola Jokic is a name that seems to evoke both awe and confusion in the basketball world. Despite his staggering performances, countless MVPs, and championships, there's an undeniable sense that the NBA community and media still fail to fully grasp just how extraordinary this Serbian superstar truly is. Jokic has redefined what it means to be a dominant NBA player in an era obsessed with athleticism, highlight dunks, and personal brands. He plays a style of basketball that doesn't rely on the flash of Zion Williamson or Ja Morant's explosive dunks. Instead, Jokic's brilliance lies in his basketball IQ, his efficiency, and his ability to make everyone around him better. But here's the twist: his quiet, humble approach to the game has made him a target for critics and doubters who still refuse to acknowledge his place among the greats. Jokic's story isn't just about dominating on the court, it's about how the media and public perception have failed to fully appreciate a player who's been fooling the world with his brilliance for years. When you look at the numbers, they're staggering. In the 2022-2023 season, Jokic averaged 24.5 points, 11.8 rebounds, and 9.8 assists per game, flirting with a triple-double every single night. These are the kinds of numbers you'd expect from a player who combines the talents of Magic Johnson, Tim Duncan, and LeBron James into one. Jokic scores from everywhere on the court, facilitates like a seasoned point guard, and can anchor a team's defense with his positioning and rebounding. But it's not just about the points he scores, it's the way he scores them. Jokic shoots 63.2% from the field and 35.4% from three-point range, which is ridiculous for a 7-footer. His efficiency is off the charts, and his impact is undeniable. But despite these numbers, Jokic's dominance often feels like an afterthought in the broader media conversation. In an age where flashy athleticism often dominates the headlines, Jokic's grounded, methodical approach to the game doesn't always generate the same level of excitement. That's not to say he's unnoticed. His play has spoken volumes, but it's clear that many still don't fully understand what they're witnessing. The fact that Jokic isn't American, or that he isn't playing a high-flying, flashy style of basketball, only adds fuel to the fire of criticism and misunderstanding. Some pundits, like former ESPN commentator Dan Le Batard, have suggested that Jokic's non-American background might be a factor in why he's not celebrated the way American superstars are. This raises an interesting question about the biases that exist in the NBA media. In a league dominated by African-American players, is there a subconscious bias against players who don't fit the mold? While that's a topic for another day, it's hard to ignore the cultural disconnect that exists between Jokic's understated style and the high-energy, entertainment-driven culture of the NBA. Jokic isn't looking for attention, and his game doesn't scream for it either. While stars like Zion Williamson and Ja Morant make their names with jaw-dropping dunks and highlights, Jokic makes his mark with perfect footwork, precise passes, and an uncanny ability to read the game like a chess master. For fans and analysts who aren't paying close attention, it can be easy to overlook his brilliance. But that's precisely why Jokic is the kind of player who needs to be studied, not just watched. His game doesn't jump off the screen in the same way that a dunk from LeBron or a three from Curry does, but that doesn't mean it's any less impactful. In fact, it's more impactful. When you talk to other players, the respect for Jokic is unanimous. Draymond Green, a player known for his defense and basketball IQ, admitted that Jokic gave him complete hell in a playoff matchup despite Green's best efforts to contain him. Green, who's been in countless playoff battles, noted how Jokic's energy and brilliance on the court were unmatched. Jokic's play isn't just efficient, it's relentless. He never stops moving, never stops thinking, and never stops making the right decision. This is the essence of his game. Jokic doesn't rely on athleticism or force, he relies on skill, vision, and intelligence. And in doing so, he elevates every player around him. Despite all this, Jokic's greatness has often been downplayed by the media. A prime example of this is Stephen A. Smith's infamous claim that Jokic doesn't have a dominant post game. This comment was immediately refuted when the data showed that Jokic's post-up play was the most efficient in the entire NBA over the past decade. But this isn't the only example of the media downplaying Jokic's skills. Nick Wright of FS1's First Things First once went as far as to call Jokic the worst MVP since Dave Cowens in the 1970s, a comparison that's not only historically inaccurate but absurd when you consider the level of competition today. It's a narrative that simply doesn't hold water, yet it's one that continues to gain traction in some circles. Then there's Kendrick Perkins, the former NBA big man turned ESPN analyst who made headlines by accusing Jokic of stat padding, a claim that was quickly debunked by advanced analytics. Perkins went further, suggesting that Jokic's MVP wins were the result of racial bias among the predominantly white media voters. This was another unfounded claim, one that ignored the fact that 6 international players, all of whom were black, had won MVP prior to Jokic's run. It was a theory with no basis in reality, designed more to provoke than to inform. The media's obsession with undermining Jokic reached new lows when ESPN's Mark Jones, a commentator with a history of questionable takes on Jokic, was caught making subtle slights toward the Serbian star. Jones tweeted clips highlighting rare defensive mistakes by Jokic and downplayed his basketball IQ. Eventually, ESPN demoted Jones, removing him from the 2023 NBA Finals broadcast team due to his biased and negative comments. This was a significant move, but it also underscored the lengths some in the media were willing to go to downplay Jokic's impact on the game. It's not hard to see why Jokic doesn't fit the mold of the typical NBA star, and that's uncomfortable for some who prefer their heroes to be larger-than-life, charismatic, and loud. Jokic, in contrast, is reserved, humble, and more focused on winning than on building his personal brand. He doesn't crave the spotlight, and he doesn't cater to the media's demands for attention. And yet, he's winning both on the court and in the court of public opinion. Despite all the criticisms and negativity, Jokic continues to prove his doubters wrong. Every year, his numbers get more impressive, and every year, the Denver Nuggets get closer to their championship goals. In 2023, Jokic led the Nuggets to their first ever NBA championship, cementing his legacy as one of the greatest players in the league today. He's not just fooling the critics, he's making them look foolish with each passing season. And his style of play, which once seemed incompatible with the NBA's fast-paced, highlight-driven culture, has proven to be not just successful but revolutionary. Jokic has made a mockery of every pundit who doubted him, from those who dismissed his post-game to those who questioned his ability to lead a team to a title. And through it all, he's remained true to himself, focused on basketball and his family, not on the fame and fortune that come with it. In the end, Nikola Jokic is more than just a player. He's a symbol of what happens when you reject the status quo and embrace a different path. He's a reminder that greatness doesn't always have to be loud. Sometimes the best way to silence your critics is by simply being better than them. Jokic's story isn't just about dominating the NBA, it's about how a player can fool the media, break expectations, and redefine what it means to be a superstar. So the next time you hear someone dismiss Jokic as just another non-athletic big man from Serbia, remember this: he's fooling the media, but he's not fooling anyone who knows the game. Jokic is greatness personified, and he's here to stay. As we reflect on Jokic's career and the media's failed attempts to diminish his legacy, one thing becomes abundantly clear: no matter how hard the doubters try, Nikola Jokic will continue to dominate, continue to win, and continue to expose the shallow narratives that attempt to hold him back. His legacy is secure, and in the end, the media's misguided criticisms will fade into the background as Jokic's greatness shines brighter than ever.